There are three main states that we need to bring them into daily life. And if you bring these three elements into your life, you can make sure those days are successful, full of improvement, full of positivity, and full of achievements. And you feel positive. You have lots of energy around the day. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Plan B training, where we are going through the main aspects of self-improvement, self-development, and we already covered two main areas about discipline, about motivation, and today we are going to talk about another aspect. The title of this episode is The Power of Visualization. Okay, so you might think it is to do with visualization. It is, but it is not at the same time. So I'm not going to talk about visualization in a way that the yellow psychology pages or groups are trying to promote with regards to imagine you are wealthy, imagine you have the power, the motivation, and you're already there. So I am not that much into that self-affirmation, positive affirmation alone. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying it does need a special preparation. But what it means here for me, the visualization, is a mean to communicate with ourselves, a mean to communicate with future self. So we'll have another session where we are going to talk about discussion with ourselves at the present, at the moment. Is a technique, I called it ROAR, and it's very important. I'm pretty sure we will have another session that is positive self-talk or self-positive talk, where we are talking about a coaching style conversations that we can have with ourselves. But the specific episode is about visualizing ourselves in future and have a communication with our best version of ourselves. This will help us to bring the identity to a right level of a state, to the state of improvement, to the state of change and positivity. There are three main states that we need to bring them up. And if you are bringing these three elements into your daily habits, into your daily life, you can make sure those days are successful, full of improvement, full of positivity, and full of achievements. And you feel positive. You have a lots of energy around the day. And if you bring these three elements into your life, you know for sure every day will be full of awe, full of miracle, full of energy. And I promise you, implementing these three elements, these three state of energy, a state of mind, and a state of identity, bring them up and you will be in the zone. So these are the three main elements: state of mind, a state of body, and a state of identity. Bring them up and you know you are there. We will have another episode where we are going to talk about different aspects of a state of energy, a state of body, which is to do with energy, what to do. Our body feels more energetic and ready to change. And usually it requires some work that is, although there is no a specific rule that works for everyone, but there are some rule of thumbs that are universal, and you can consider those rule of thumbs that is very important, and you can utilize them in your day-to-day life, such as have a right amount of sleep, have the hydration in the morning, have the exercise every day, not a long exercise, but if you can start your day with at least 7 minutes exercise, 7 minute to 15-minute exercise to bring your heart with to start releasing dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, all of a sudden you feel you are in the right state. And we will have another episode, of course, about the state of mind, and a lot of discussion around the state of mind, about the practice of mindfulness, about the practice of ROAR or self-coaching conversation with yourself, with your positive self. These are elements that we will touch base in future. This specific episode is about bringing your identity to the right state. So this is the third element of a state. Is very important, because if you don't have the right identity and you don't have the right purpose, why you do things, because the identity come back to the reason that you start doing things. You start acting, you start planning every day. It's based on the identity. And if you don't have the right identity as a target, as the ultimate vision that you are going through that, you're not going to find that action meaningful, and therefore you might lose the consistency, you might lose the motivation. I'm happy that the previous sessions that we had was about motivation, and it was also about discipline. They are very important, and we learned motivation is by building up small actions and then keeping up the momentum and build that motivation every day. We also learned about discipline, that we need to have our days with a structure, so we can start with habits. We know what we need to do. We think about the positive aspects. We put the negative aspects aside. We consider, when we are going through the temporal discounting, the mechanism that our brain is designed to, we try to make sure to increase our awareness, because the awareness is the key. Awareness is curative. And what it means is, if you know by making a wrong decision, what is it that you are sacrificing? What is it that you are going to give away, compared with the straight joy that might seems joyful, but in reality, also with that awareness, you know that there is another pain coming afterwards. These are elements that you need to put them together. And what I want to also mention here, and this is very important, is that consider that you learn all these elements of success everywhere, whether it is self-help books or YouTube channels. Fantastic. But you need to make a framework and bring them to the life, bring them to practice. Knowledge that leads to practical skill is more important than just having a knowledge for the sake of it. So we need to build a framework, and the framework that put all these small elements together, and we can relate them together, and we can work with them and utilize them in our daily life. And that's the main reason that I put the framework of Plan B, because I believe with the framework, the full framework of Plan B, of course, is much bigger. But one of the main elements of the framework of Plan B is how to be in the zone. And in order to be in the zone, you need to have those three elements of a state of mind, state of body, and a state of identity in the right state, in the right situation. Then you are there. Then you can say, well, I feel today I'm full of energy. I feel today I have lots of motivation. I can change everything. And that's where, with the right element of a state, that's where you are feeling, you are sensing it, that your story has changed. If I ask you in a normal day, what do you want to do? You're probably going to say, I would like to think that I am going to be expert in, I don't know, one area in a field, or I'm going to be, potentially, I would like to think that maybe in 1 year or in 2 years, I'm going to be the best communicator or the best programmer, whatever is your objective, whatever it is your final targets. But if you are in the right state, and if I ask you the same question, you're not going to reply that. You're going to say, I am going to do that. I'm going to make it. I don't know how, but I am going to be that person. I'm already on the path. I already started some actions, and I know I will be there. I must be there. I must do that. There is no compromise. And that's the difference between the state of day-to-day and the state of success, the state of virtuoso, the state where people change themselves and the world around them and influence. Okay, we want to be on that state, and that's very important. That's very important. Where do we want to be? Putting that aside, what I would like you to do now is to think about where you are, a state point of view. Before going to the practice of the visualization, which I am going to talk about in the next step, is I want to just score yourself where you are with that level of a state of mind, a state of body and physique, and a state of identity, who you are. Are you happy with where you are? And what do you think you need to do in order to improve in these three areas? You can pause the videos or just write the prompt, and then later on after the video, have a look, because this is one of the main aspects that I would like to promote within these videos. And that's very important, to make sure we are in the right zone people are split into two categories. 90% of people drop into the vicious circle of, well, I don't have motivation, therefore I'm not going to do that much. My action is not meaningful, so I'm just going to waste my time. That leads to less motivation, that leads to less work and less positive action, and so on and so forth. That means if you don't care about the situation, you might end up with the dangerous areas of where people get depressed. People completely get demotivated, and we don't want to be there. But usually out of that 90%, there are 10% of people maybe more or less going to that level even, okay? But 10% of us will go to the positive self cycle where they make sure they are in the right state, and right state will bring the motivation bring them to do another right state, and so on and so forth. And therefore, they also will have a really positive cycle. Having said that, being in the right positive self-conversation and positive cycle doesn't mean you are safe all the time. We will have another discussion, and we should have a ritual every day. We should have ritual every day. So these rituals should prompt us to encouraging situation that where we have been and where we are now. And then just remind us, it's very easy to just drop to that 90% again. Stay motivated. Do what it takes so you stay there in the right state. And that's very important. That's another discussion for another time. For the time being, I urge you again to think about these three elements, those three states, where we are, what situation we would like to be, and where we are now. So what's your target with regards to a state of mind, a state of identity, and a state of energy? Where you are and where do you want to be, okay? And that's the power of visualization where I want to talk about after this practice. And then just think about this, but what do you need to do in order to improve each of them? Have some reflections. Have some conversation with yourself. It needs that self-positive talk with yourself. Of course, sometimes you need to search it. Sometimes you might need to Google it. Sometimes you need to use the power of AI these days, but nevertheless, it needs to start with you. You need to start it. It might prompt you to read a book. It might prompt you to read a video in YouTube. It might prompt you to start doing something from scratch, but that's the goal, that's the target. I'm not saying what you're going to find out is absolutely correct, because we are going to correct ourselves. If it doesn't work, we have to change it. We need to understand what options we have, and then we need to start doing something about them. So do this practice as the first step, and I start the next part of the video about the power of visualization. Thank you. About the power of visualization, this is important, and I just want to tell you where this story came from. The story came from where I was using a program asking me to do two things. The first one was to write an email or write a letter to myself that I'm going to pick it up in 5 days. The idea was that I start few habits. And actually the habits that I started to pick up was around those three states of mind, energy, and identity. And I said, I'm going to make few habits. If you have not seen my training around how to build habits in our daily life, I ask you to go and have a look in my Instagram page. But the main point is, I was doing that, and around that exercise, I needed to start practicing those habits on a daily basis. I said, I need consistency and I need some sort of commitment. And as part of that program, I needed to write an email and send it to myself, and I'm going to pick it up in 5 days or 6 days. What I put in that email or in that letter was that I knew you can do it. Look at yourself, where you have been last year and where you are now. And it is obvious that you are in the right path. And I'm pretty sure in 5 days, in 6 days, when you pick this letter up, you find out that you actually started implementing those habits. And that shows your commitment. And that is your motivation, because you're building momentum, you're building motivation, and you go further and further. And I enjoyed it when I received that letter, because it was a sign of commitment. It gave me a level of appreciation and gratitude that I sometimes seek from others, from outside world, but it needs to come from you, from yourself. That's why I'm saying that's a very good practice. That's a very good exercise. And the follow-up of that, it asked me also to now do another exercise. And that was the second one, prompts me to make this video. And the exercise was to now imagine yourself in 2-3 years from now. And then imagine yourself as the best version of yourself. And start visualizing and see who you are then. How do you talk? How do you communicate? Who do you talk to? What do you wear? Where do you go? All those questions. And at the beginning, I have to say, I didn't consider it as a perfect example. And I was thinking, what is it that I need to do exactly? What is it that I'm going to achieve from this exercise? But gradually, I realized that, hang on a minute, am I doing that? There is a gap. I saw myself in 2 years, in 3 years, standing upright, talking with conviction, with confidence, fantastic way of communication, very articulate. I have to say, at that point, my articulation wasn't very good. English is not my first language, first of all. And secondly, I didn't have that level of communication that you are standing and talking to a group of people. That's where I was looking at myself in future. And I thought, if I want to be there with that level of confidence and articulation, I certainly don't have the skill now. So that's one gap. And the second gap was the way I was talking, the way I was walking, the way how I appeared in the public. That was completely different with what I was. So I started picking those points. And because of that, it gave me the idea of the identity that I am actually looking as my ultimate, or not necessarily ultimate, but the best version, because I'm saying not necessarily ultimate because it might change. You might go up and then gradually realize, oh, you need another best version because you already reached there. That's the beauty of this self-improvement. You review your life, you're going to find out you reached already to some good best version of yourself, but you are still thinking about another version because the life goes on and we need to improve every day. And that's the beauty of it. Anyway, that's the exercise that I want you to also do. And the result of it is that you identify the identity that you would like to embody. And what it means is we don't need necessarily wait for 2 years and 3 years and 4 years and wishing that we get there. There are elements that we need to already bring them to life. There are elements that we need to embody right now. The way we talk, the way we communicate, the way we even wear, the appearance, all of them, what we do, we need to identify them because these are defining how we are spending our days, how we are developing ourselves. And that is necessary if you are going to develop yourself, if you want to improve yourself. There are resources that we have and we need to be efficient with those resources. The main resource that we have is time. And if you do it with the same pace, with the same way that you do 3 years ago, or from now till next 3 days, the same way, our speed of improvement or development will be very slow. We need to upgrade our vehicle. Sometimes it's fine that we just walk, but then we have to change it, get a bicycle, then we have to get the car, then we might change it again and use airplane. So this is important, that what level of improvement we are talking about. And this happens only by identity. You need to expand your identity, your potentials, and your potentials come in your identity. And it's very important that every day you put yourself into the right state of identity. The right state of identity will bring that level of energy, commitment, discipline, motivation. It's very important. And that's why I put the identity, the first thing between those 3 states as a training. And that's why the name of the system that I put as a framework of success, that I put all these elements together, Plan B, because Plan B is about being. We don't need to become in future. We already can be. Part of that identity can be built already. And then gradually all aspects of the identity, self-esteem, confidence, and also the elements about motivation, all of them are based on momentum. And that means that we have to start somewhere and then start making that positive cycle again and again. We cannot stop and just think it comes out of nothing. And that's a very important message about the identity, because identity is the first element, is the first requirement of where you go consistently. If you put identity aside, you might do it for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but after a while you would say, why I'm doing this. So you want to write a book? What's your identity? Your identity should be that you are going to be a very successful author. As a writer, what do? I'm writing, I'm reading, I'm watching programs that is to do with writing, with editing, with articulations. So start doing them. You can do it now. You don't need to write a book. You can write a chapter. If write a chapter is too much, write a page. Write a page is too much. Just write 1 paragraph. Write a paragraph. You don't know where to start. Just do the conversation with yourself and find the mind map, the framework that you are going to implement into that writing. And that's where you are gradually going to develop that identity, because then you're going to find that, oh, hang on, I can start doing a lot of things. And that visualization is very powerful, but it's not enough. But it's not enough. And that's another part that I would like to ask you to do. But before that, again, do the practice, do the exercise, and visualize yourself in 3 years, and visualize as the best version of yourself. And then start looking at yourself. So that's the first part. Your appearance, your conversation, what you do, where do you go, who do you talk to, all those elements. Try to even expand these questions more than what I just said in this video, and start thinking about them. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the second thing that's very strong as well, I want you to do is now start communicating with that best version of yourself and talk. And it is a two-way talk. It isn't clear who is talking. Is it your best version of yourself talking to you? Or is it you talking to your best version? But have that conversation. Maybe your best version of yourself wants to say something to you. Maybe you want to say something. You have a question. You will be amazed. This is part of a coaching skill. We will have another conversation about coaching, because that's where my passion is. These elements of conversation will start revealing aspects of life that you didn't know about them. You know them, but it's in your subconscious, it's not in your conscious. And this conversation brings them to the surface, and you pick them up and you realize you overlooked them before. So it's fantastic exercise. Do these two main exercises. Number 1, visualization of yourself, your best version of yourself. And number 2, having that conversation with your best version of yourself. hope you had a good reflection session. Bear in mind, the power of using these trainings is behind practicing them. Not only this program, anything. Don't let the knowledge lead to knowledge itself. Think pragmatic, think practical. Make sure the skill and knowledge you learn, you are going to utilize. And that's very important. And we do it with mindfulness and clarity. As the state of mind is very important to bring that awareness. The last part of the training, I want to just come back to that element of being in the zone. I know that I didn't talk about the state of mind and a state of energy in detail, and that's for another training. But for this training, which is a state of identity, I'm going to tell you another point, and that is a state of identity, or to that matter, any of those three elements that I mentioned, bring you into a zone. And when you are in the zone, you have the clarity. You have the clarity of what is it that you want to do. You are connected with your positive self, and this connection with your positive self will reveal your mission, your why, your purpose. And that's where it's important to have an image of the vision that you have. And that's where another aspect of visualization is important. Bear in mind, what I'm trying to say here is not necessarily wealth, it's not necessarily money, happiness, and we are not here talking about happiness. I prefer to use another terminology, being content. The contentment is more important than happiness. Adding value. It's important to have the visualization of where we want to be and why we do this. That's important. That's your story. And your story defined by your estate. You have a poor estate, your story is poor. If your mission is not very powerful, what are you doing? What's the target of what's your objectives? What is it that you want to do in your life? If you're not in the right state, well, I'm here, I'm going to live for a while, then I'm going to die like other million people before me. If that's the mindset that you have, there is nothing that you can do about it. But if you are in the right positive state, we are interconnected with each other. We know we are, as a whole body of being, we are connected, and the targets and objective is, of course, improvement in any aspect of our lives. So it's important to be in the right state, and the right states define the right story for you. You have to understand, what is my story? I want to be a good writer, a good author, a good sportsman, a good programmer, communicator, and why. Also, why is important because it comes from your passion. It comes from your what you would like to do. If you do something that you would like to do, it comes naturally. And when it comes naturally, it becomes effective. People start to relate themselves with you. And that's an important aspect of genuinity and originality. So what is your story now? Change your state and you will see the story is also improved and elevated to your vision elevated, your target, your objective, your story is elevated. And just give you a very example, a crude example, of course, but many years ago, I was doing some work like engineering work. And my background is engineering, chemical engineering. And I was doing some study around how to improve efficiency of part of the process. And if someone would ask me, what is it that I'm doing? I would say, well, do you have a problem there? I don't know what to do, to be honest. It just do my head in and I need to sort this problem. And I wasn't in the right state. And very interestingly, exactly the day after that, I met a very experienced engineer in my workplace. His knowledge and his wisdom around the work was completely on a different level. I talk about the same problem and he didn't solve the problem for me, but he asked something. He asked 2 or 3 questions that actually those 2 or 3 questions brought me to a level that I solved the problem. Later on, I realized the person who solved it still was me. But I pointed to look at the right way. I pointed to ask the right question. And that was the art. That was the skill set of that person. And when I talked to that person, what he said was that every day you face a lot of problems. And your estate is telling you, oh my God, another problem, or is telling you, that fantastic, another challenge. I'm going to look at that challenge. I'm pretty sure I can resolve it and go to the next step, because each challenge will bring your capability to a level that is higher than before. So then I thought with myself, that's an interesting point, because previously I was looking at each challenge as a hurdle, as a problem to do my job. But this way, I see each challenge as a way up, and like a ladder, like a promotion, like something that bring me or improve me or upgrade me to another level. So then I welcome challenge, and I would say, fantastic, so let's look at the new challenge. And that's again is a different state, different story, different mindset. And here, what I would like you to do is to do the same exercise. In your difficulties around the life, your objectives, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? What is your story? What is your vision? What do you want? What's your purpose? Why? Ask them, ask the question. And when you are in the right state, in a good mood, do 7-minute exercise, maybe one day wake up, do 7 minutes when your heartbeat is doubled and you know you are energetic, have the hydration. If you need to have a good breakfast, take a shower, have some incantations and self-affirmation in a positive way, bring yourself to the right state, and then ask again the same question. Then maybe at some point, compare these two questions, compare these two answers, and see how different they are. So what I want you to do is, after this video, because that's the last part of the training that I put for this specific episode, is to change your state. For energy, I know we didn't talk about the state of energy, a state of body or physics, or a state of mind, but what I'm just going to ask you is to put yourself in a situation that you need some do a little bit exercise, and take a shower, and make sure that you're not tired. Make sure that you had enough sleep. There are elements that are called these foundations in Plan B, and make sure you adhere to some of those foundations, and then you realize that you have a higher level of energy. Again, don't eat a lot of food, because that's counterproductive for that energy that I'm talking about. And then ask the same question. What is your story? What is your vision, your mission, your purpose? What do you want to do? Who do you see yourself as a visualization in 3 years, 4 years, as the best version of yourself? I'm pretty sure your answer will be different. So make sure that you are asking these questions and then comparing them, because that will tell you, okay, now I understand the importance of the identity, but also the importance of the state and the story behind it. Because these all together become a bomb. Then you are a bomb. You are going to explode. You are going to break through of all the hurdles, of all the difficulties. You're going to make changes that seemed impossible before. And that's where I want you to leave with this training. I hope you enjoyed the training. And in the next episode, we are going to talk about state of mind, state of energy, and I would like to expand all those elements of the frameworks of success that I was talking about. And I think these are universal. And I wish you a fantastic day, fantastic week. If you are enjoying the program, please subscribe, press the like, please introduce us to your friends. Also follow me in Instagram, and I wish you an amazing day, and I will see you soon. Thank you again. Have a good day.